I'm Justin Tomlin. I am an HR program manager for a company called NetApp that's based out of RTP here in North Carolina. I've been with them going on 3 years now. And so I started my journey with NC State. I came into NC State in 2012 as a chemical engineering major, dead set on being a physician assistant and going to PA school, and quickly learned that I was going to be miserable in chemical engineering if I didn't get into PA school, and that was kind of my backup plan, is to have a degree I could be successful in, but knew I would just not enjoy my life if I was a chemical engineer. And so I backed out of, I've transitioned into biochemistry and was in there for a semester, and then took a nutrition class, an intro to nutrition class at NC State my sophomore year of college, and fell in love with it. And realized that it would be a much better route for pre-PA. It'd prepare me well. It'd be more proactive with my approach to medicine that I'm more in line with. And so switched into nutrition as a result of that. Spent the next 3 years exploring that degree and realized that PA was just not the route I wanted to take. So ended up understanding that I wanted to help people just in a different capacity than medicine allowed me to. So moved into a couple different clubs that were business related and found a passion for human resources and sales, and somewhat of combining that into recruiting even. And so now I work on a university relations team specifically, so managing programs for interns and new university grad hires that are going to be coming out of school, and working with them to just really help them identify careers they're going to love and the best jobs that fit their skill sets and where they want to go, matching them with their long-term goals, and ultimately running the programs that help our NetApp university grad hires and interns be successful. So being in a different field than the one that I majored in, there were certainly still some classes that were very impactful for me to take. It was nice because the degree allowed me, and ultimately stay in a fifth year as well, allowed me a chance to take a few additional classes that were outside of the core nutrition curriculum. And so some of the most impactful classes was an intro to HR class that I was able to take, which not only taught me a lot about the HR field and ultimately helped me discover my passion for it, but it also taught me a lot about the interviewing basics and how to get into a job and how to make the most out of it. And so there were a lot there for navigating that first job coming out of college. So how to design your resume to best fit for the job you're applying for, how to sell yourself the best in an interview setting, and those types of skills. So I think a class that would be a very impactful class that helped me. I think another one is some of the ones that as a science major, you can get locked into this feeling like, why do I have to take all these humanities, or why do I have to take all these random classes that don't pertain to what I'm going to be doing? But in reality, they do, and there's a good reason to have a well-rounded curriculum built to help you get exposure to different areas. And so one of the most impactful classes I ever took was Foundations of Cultural Competence at NC State, and it really just explored the different cultural aspects that are out there and how to didn't make me culturally competent. You can't become culturally competent, but it helps you understand the differences that exist and valuing diversity in a different light. And we have these aspects of diversity that are typically advertised or talked about, but diversity goes so much deeper. There's so many things that are on the surface level that people get latched onto from a diversity standpoint, but then diversity is an iceberg. There is so much below the surface that exists within a person that a lot of people you don't see at face value. As far as clubs I've joined, Alpha Kappa Psi business fraternity definitely helped me out transition, because I was predominantly nutrition focused in science, and I was in pre-health club and a lot of different nutrition focused organizations, and it just realized if I was going to be transitioning out, it allowed me an avenue where I couldn't change my major because I was so deep in it. I was already going to be staying a fifth year, that I went ahead and had to get creative with how I was going to get exposure to the business world and the realm I would ultimately head into. So pre-health club was a club that I was in. I was the blood drive coordinator for them, and organized the blood drives for about every other semester. Once or twice a semester we would have blood drives that we would host on campus. And what that opportunity really allowed me to do was grow my leadership skills, because I had several people that would show up as volunteers and coaching them through the opportunity that they were getting to volunteer, how to check people in, and really just showed that I was capable of taking a leadership role, but also gave me some great project management skill sets, which relate really well to my program manager job that I'm in now. But ultimately, program management, every individual is a project manager in some capacity, because we manage our lives and our day-to-day, our grocery list, or moving apartments, moving houses. All of that is a project. And so learning the foundations of project management and how to eventually take on a bigger project with a lot of different stakeholders and objectives, it was a nice entry-level role to showcase my leadership skills, but also develop those program or project management skills that have now helped me tremendously in my job now. So there is no typical day. I know that's probably cliche for a lot of folks, but there's really no typical day in my job. It really depends on the season. So my job in the university relations space is very cyclical in nature, just as a whole. So basically, it depends on the season you're in. We're doing a lot of recruiting, going out to campus, pulling in the students, and getting pipeline for positions that we will eventually fill. And that takes place in the fall and spring. But once they're onboarded in the summer time frame is when the majority of our interns do onboard for our Americas region. And that's the one that I manage. So for our Americas, we've got, if it's a day in June, I'm running around helping interns get onboarded, making sure they're getting to their orientation and got everything set up for them, that they're having great conversations with their managers, having very clear goals set and conversations with, okay, what am I going to be doing for the next 10 to 12 weeks that I'm in my internship? If it's a day in October, I may be heading out to NC State to go to a campus recruiting event, maybe presenting to a classroom, maybe attending a career fair where we're actually recruiting folks, and actually having conversations around what types of jobs we offer and what that all looks like. So having that conversation, letting them know what NetApp's all about and what opportunities we may have that students can head into. If it's a day in February, it's a lot of prep work. So we've got some of the campus taken care of in the fall, and now there's some of my team that's still out on campus heavily recruiting in the spring, but my main focus then shifts to planning for the interns. So we bring in about 150 interns every summer, depending on the year, for the entire Americas region, and so I've got interns in 10 different locations across the country. So it's meeting with different stakeholders and different site contacts at those individual locations to make sure everything is set up for their summer. And whether that's organizing the speaker series where the CEO comes and talks, whether that's organizing all of the logistics that go into the mentoring program that's grown really well over the past couple of years and a truly impactful experience for our interns, or organizing some of the bowling or social events, team building activities that we do throughout the summer as well. I would say there's not a lot of overlap between specific nutrition and my job now. As an HR program manager, as you might assume, there's not a ton of overlap, but I think nutrition, one thing that's special about nutrition as a degree is it's relevant and it's practical no matter what you end up going into. Because there is a lot to be said for just how you live your life and understanding the aspects of food and just nutrition and how it interacts in the body anyway. So just the way we live our lives. But there's ultimately a lot of skill sets you gain from a nutrition degree that are helpful regardless of which field you head into as well. So for me, understanding study design, survey design, analytical skills, understanding that data is only impactful if you know how to interpret that data and whether it's relevant, statistically significant, valid, right? So understanding those aspects certainly trickle over to any type of field you head into, because it gives you a different lens than people otherwise might have if they majored in some non-technical field. Post-grad life taught me a lot about myself because it's in a much different scenario than you are as a student. So I think you go through a lot of life changes that happen and you're really out in the real world, because even if you're doing an internship, you're balancing intern, full-time, maybe you're doing a full-time internship. You've got school going on, you've got internship and full-time work going on as well. There's not a lot of time to spend thinking for yourself and kind of what you want to end up being or what your long-term goals are. And I think one of the biggest things as well is when you graduate, when you're in school, you know what your end goal is. It's to graduate. When you get out of school, the world's your oyster.
Yeah.
And it becomes this situation where the world's yours. I mean, you can do whatever you want to. You can set whatever types of goals you want to. There's not a real clearly defined trajectory. And I think that's been one of my biggest learning lessons is now that I look back, 3 years back from when I graduated, so now 2.5 years, 3 years, since I've graduated, what have I done and how many goals have I set and how many of those have I realistically achieved? Because it can be very easy to just get into the day-to-day grind and get caught up into different things and not clearly work towards any type of thing in particular. So having a clearly defined goalpost out there that you're working towards and having some type of plan of action to get there is very important, because it is very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and rush through life, and all of a sudden you're looking back and you're thinking, it's been 5 years and what have I truly accomplished? It can be it's not as clearly defined as when you're in school. I think it's interesting because I was watching a Netflix documentary actually recently, and one of the things that they're learning about the mind is being able to be creative in your thinking and envision solutions or envision the future is completely contingent on your past experiences. And so I think there is value in understanding your onlyness as a person, which is the space that you stand that no one else could occupy. And Nilofer Merchant is the individual who has coined that term, onlyness. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a very important one for everyone to understand, because it truly is, there is no one like you. There's no one like me out there in this world. We may have a lot of shared experiences. Maybe we both went to NC State. Maybe we're both nutrition majors. But there is a spot in this universe that you stand that no one else could. And that's based on your past experiences. And so I think that it's important not to neglect. It's important to learn from your past and your mistakes even, but not to neglect or disregard what you've come through to get to a place you are. Because yes, I could say that there are certain things in my life that I would change or do differently. But ultimately, if that was the case, if I did have the chance to change them, I would not be who I am or standing where I am today. Our ability to predict the future or envision the future or be creative with our solutions hinges on our past experiences. Make an effort to diversify those experiences. If you have a chance to go abroad, go abroad. If you have a chance to make friends with somebody that is totally unlike you, do that. Find that one common thread, and then the rest of it that's different, learn and then explore that, because that's what's going to give you the opportunity to be creative with your solutions down the road. So my advice for students would be 3 things, and that would be to continue to set very clear goals for yourself, always have something you're striving towards, to constantly push your comfort zone, and ultimately understand that our minds are relatively poor at predicting what's going to make us happy in a lot of ways, and so getting outside of our comfort zones can be very scary at times, but it's critical to do that, to not only just grow and develop, but ultimately to discover our new passions and things in life that are going to make us happy and things in life that we continue to strive for. So I think that would be the second piece. And the third piece, I think also, do not sell yourself short. Everybody has something to add. Everybody knows something that another person doesn't. And it's important to understand, I like to take this mindset with myself, is everybody's an expert at something. And even if I am very knowledgeable in HR or nutrition or whatever it is, that doesn't mean I'm the smartest in that, and it certainly doesn't mean I'm the smartest at everything out there. So everybody has something to give, everybody has something to contribute, everybody has something to teach. And so take that mindset and take that growth mindset forward through life, is understanding that people around you have something to give, but you also do as well. And what you have to give is based on your unique experiences and the spot you stand in the world, in your onlyness, that no one else can mock. No one else can stand in that same spot. And so it's important to understand what you have to offer and to do a lot of self-reflection and self-discovery to find out what that is. But to not sell yourself short would be a big piece of it.